Oh, snap. Okay. Hey, howdy, howdy, hey, ho. Into the cards we go. Hey, everyone. Hi. I hope y'all having a good evening, afternoon, morning, whatever, whenever. I'm planning on keeping it a little bit shorter today. Um, Today is the day that a new momentum begins because I decided. I've already done some little things. In general, I'm just not gonna like procrastinate and be the limiting piece or the slowest moving piece in my life as much anymore. Or that's the intention, right? Also some other things that like just little things. Honestly, just integrating more Virgo energy into my life, more Virgonian energy. Um, because that's what I'm feeling like this year is supposed to be for me. So three cards came out. I'm using the Diceology cards today. I'm only gonna pull one, but these came out as I was starting this, and they're all in the suit of hearts, which is interesting. It's the Queen of Hearts, a candle burning on both ends, inversion, a revelation of self and accountability. With the Nine of Hearts and the Two of Hearts, a blip of light at the heart of a black hole, progenitors in a primordial pool, being between worlds, a vision brought to life, choices that require foresight and communication. What's interesting is that, like, being between both worlds and then the blip of light at the heart of a black hole, because it's like one thing in the space of another, almost like the collapse of a polarity. It's like something that shouldn't simultaneously exist in the same space time. But then over here, it is like a candle burning on both ends as well. I don't know what that's about. But let's get into the card for today. And okay, well, there's two, the Four of Clubs and the Ace of Clubs. So we move from hearts to clubs. Understanding the unseen, grasping the subtle, and the sacred vessel. 56, 10, 6, 7, 3, and 2 on the Four of Clubs. I know they're backwards, but a strong will and an open heart, all things taken into account. 3, 8, 7, 2, 3, and 1 on the Ace of Clubs. Now, this is one of the few cards that has all single digit numbers on it. And the Ace of Clubs is the Sun? I think it's the Sun. Let me check. Actually, it's not on here. I really need to like sync some stuff online. Also, I'm going to be finishing up the graphics for the rest of the major spreads. So at first I was like, oh, I'm not going to be on as much. I'll just focus on everything else. But again, that balance is kind of important. I just won't be on as long. Um, but my usual source, I lost. I think I put it in a Word document. Okay, so the yodeling veterinarian of the Alps. Also, my list. Hello? 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 What is all this? One moment. After all that we've been through, I know we're cool. There we go. That's not what I was looking for, though. I thought it was freeze drying homework. Oh no. I thought it was on here because I opened my line. I opened this and it was on here. Hold up, it might be over here. One second. Yeah, it's not over here. Okay. Well, I'm gonna use that later anyway. So too many technology. That's doc 3. Where did I put it? Did I not save it? No, I had to save it. I would have saved it. It's fine. Um, I guess I'm just not gonna use the Lenormand correspondences today. I'm pretty sure it's the sun, though. Actually, I can just Google it real quick. Here it is. My one resource got taken down, so yeah. Here we go. Clubs. What's this? Diamonds, wands, fire, spades, clubs. The ace of clubs is the ring. Okay. It's not the sun. The ace of spades is the sun. So this is the ring. So there's an energy of the ring with a sort of four of wands energy through the space of the clubs. A strong will and an open heart, all things taken into account, understanding the unseen, grasping the subtle, and the sacred vessel. The sacred vessel is what happens when two sort of different energies come into their higher forms and then exist in the same space. Going back to that blip of light at the heart of the black hole, the candle burning on both ends and being in between worlds. Um, it's the creation of like a timeless space or a dimensionless space. Um, in a timeless and dimensionless space, like that could be something if we like pare it down. Something like what I was talking about at the end of the video yesterday. It's when you come into a space of not being as heavily influenced by your traumas and triggers, then it permits you to be in spaces that otherwise you wouldn't be in because you would recoil from them for whatever reason. But after you've done what you needed, what you sort of need to do for you to make your life better, easier, to be more well accommodated, I guess, or to be better accommodating as well. You come into a space of being able to do things that you would have never been able to do before again because now you don't have those huge reasons to not. And sometimes it's like what we want most lies behind walls like that or of that nature. Here we go. Okay. I am going to look at the numbers though. A strong will and an open heart, all things taken into account. This gives me an energy of like, again, it's that like, I know that life is difficult. I know that you've been through things, but if you have it within you, or if you want it bad enough, you can be free of this. I don't even need this for this one because this is what the Empress, the Strength, the Empress, Strength, Libra, the Sacral, the Solar Plexus, and the element of water. So the Empress and Strength in Libra, that's the well, the Empress and Strength could be the more masculine side of Venus, which is Libra. But with the sacral and solar plexus and the element of water, there's an energy here, and it goes back to that Empress yesterday too, where it's like one courageous person, a handful of courageous people, a collection of courageous, brave, like pioneers can see us come into a space a lot quicker than we thought possible, maybe even a space that we wouldn't necessarily think possible. It's an energy of really fostering creativity through bold and boundless exploration. And with strength, it's like, again, it goes back to that courageousness and that bravery and that boldness of putting that idea out there anyway, of starting even if you don't know if it'll succeed. Oops. All things taken into account, I think that is where the element of water is coming in. Water is an element that is pretty existent in like every life form to some degree on this planet. And so it's something that inherently connects all of us. and the moon has an effect on the tides, right? So the moon is the space that sort of unites us in that way because we're all pulled under it. So I guess in that way, the moon can hold the space of the collective subconscious. And it's like being connected to that element automatically fulfills certain excuse me. I'm like still clearing this mucus out. It's so annoying. But I kind of stopped taking the mucus clearing medicine. So um but it's like when you're connected to that space, there are certain things that are automatically fulfilled. It's like if you're using a certain program or a certain system to build something, and that program will automatically like run numbers or give you anything that you need just by utilizing that program. It's like there are other things that you don't even really have to consider too much because the program will automatically generate whatever result you need. All you have to do is focus on building something that is sound. And then coming into understanding the unseen, grasping the subtle in a sacred vessel, that one might be in the court of Earth. It's not, actually. It is not. That is the seven, six, the seven of zones. Seven of zones, the Wheel of Fortune, Virgo, the crown, the solar plexus, and the element of earth. The seven of zones is interesting. It's the seven of swords energy, seven of air. And so there is a certain like after the four is like a almost rudimentary understanding. At the six, you come into a greater understanding. If you stop at the six or for a while at the six, it may feel like it's somewhat complete. And so the seven is the beginnings of the understanding outside of let's say high school understanding. And now we're going into college and then like further education beyond that if we use a, K through 12 plus system. And so there are certain things that like you don't necessarily need a college degree for. You can go to a trade school. It's just like post-secondary education or training or whatever. But it's an element of learning at the seven. But it's not a learning that doesn't exist. It's like a learning with application in mind, right? Kindergarten through high school, you're kind of sort of just learning what everyone learns. Like there aren't necessarily things that you're going to use. When you go to like post-secondary education, it's assumed that most of the stuff that you're learning, maybe besides gen eds, like you're actually going to use in your field, right? And so it's coming into that energy. It's like you're learning, but with an application in mind. It's not just to accumulate knowledge. And it seems that like that's going to be what really takes you into the next level. Because again, it's like understanding the unseen and grasping the subtle. In that, there are these things that it's like the theory and the hypothesis can only tell you so much. It's only through application and only through interfacing with it in real life that you begin to fill the gaps that education isn't able to teach. There's a certain, it's almost like it's different for everybody. It's like if you're driving a vehicle, it may pull slightly to the left or slightly to the right. And so when you're driving, you kind of sort of keep that in mind. But it's like the same vehicle will pull differently for different people. And so you can only teach like a generic, generalized operation of that vehicle. And you can teach like if it pulls to the left, then you accommodate to the right. And if it pulls to the right, then you accommodate to the left. But the degree of accommodation and actually like utilizing it, it comes into practice with application. So there's an element of training here. And then with Virgo, the crown and the solar plexus, it's this element of, it's like the things that you do, like not everything, but it's about a purpose and a reason behind action. And with the element of earth, like that's what creates the foundation for anything further to be built off of. And so these two together, it speaks to me, it's like it speaks heavily of the creative process and how you get incrementally better and better and better the more you do something, the more you practice something. And it's about not necessarily being satisfied with mediocre results. And it's not to be like continuously like chasing something either, but it's about realizing, and it's like about realizing the things that you can change and the things that you don't have to accept in some kind of way, and about actually doing something to make that better. It's about actually setting the foundation for what it is that you want to come into by creating the tool set or the skill set, creating the toolkit. And so, again, like with higher education or with like post secondary education in general, you're acquiring knowledge that you're going to be applying in whatever field that you are seeking the certification or degree in. Theoretically, right? Let's assume that you plan on working in whatever field you are continuing your education in. Bottom of the deck is the Queen of Hearts again, a candle burning on both ends, inversion, a revelation of self and accountability. 67, 7, 10, 7, 2, and 1. So there's a 777 on this card. The numbers are kind of cut off at the bottom because I was a little lazy when I made it. I could have just redid those few, but I was like, you know what? I've been doing this for too long. I just want to hold these in my hands. It's fine. But the candle burning on both ends in inversion, it speaks of like, again, it kind of sort of goes back to that, like not doing anything with, with doing more things with purpose behind the action, doing more things with a purpose and with an intention, and with that purpose and intention set on getting you closer to where it is that you want to be. And so it's like this internal and external thing, the candle burning on both ends. When it meets at the middle, it's almost like one of those Christmas crackers. I've never like actually had one in real life. So I'm assuming it's that. But it's like when both flames reach the middle of the candle, then it's like something comes out. Like the ashes of the phoenix are reignited, basically, or essentially. And I know like burning a candle on both ends is typically something bad. And so also too, it speaks of this element of work and what it is that we put in to get what we want. But like the energy of the Empress is here, a strong will and an open heart is like the cornerstone, the keystone of this whole thing. And so if you don't have the will or the heart to see it through, then it's kind of sort of going to fail. But also with the energy of all things taken into account, it's not necessarily intended to be unreasonable either. But it does require effort. And sometimes it's like, again, like we do the bare minimum and we expect a whole lot and we drag our feet on doing the bare minimum. So in reality, it's kind of sort of like you do less. It's almost this energy of like you actually do less work than what you feel you do. It's like you over exaggerate how much you've actually done. So if you're satisfied with doing the bare minimum, then you've actually done less than what is required to get what you want. And so if you don't see results, then maybe that's why. But moving forward, and then it carries this like kind of sort of five of clubs energy. Five of clubs would be like a five of essence, no, five of souls. And the five of souls is interesting because I feel like that comes into a space where we are somewhat grounded in who we are. We feel like we are, but there's a lack of peace internally. And I think that lack of peace is it's like we're not fully not who we are supposed to be, but like who we are. There are still things that we're holding on to, like the water is still muddy, it's not clear yet. And so it almost feels like this constant internal bargaining to be like, I don't want to do that and I don't want to do this. Like I'll do this and then like I'll feel good. But again, it's like if you're doing the bare minimum and if we always over exaggerate the amount of work that we do, because it's like, if you've ever had a moment where it felt like time was a lot slower than it actually was. Like if you said something to somebody that made your heart skip a few beats, or it made your palms sweaty, legs weak, arms spaghetti, or whatever. I don't know. But it's like, in reality, it was probably like 10 seconds, but it felt like, 5 minutes. It's kind of sort of that energy because you are as involved in this process as you are in as many ways as you are, you overestimate what it is that you actually do. And so, again, if you're satisfied with doing the bare minimum, or if you aim to do the bare minimum, you're going to do less than what is required. Water and earth elements are extremely fertile together. The solar plexus is here twice, which is the chakra of action and the chakra of sustenance. That goes back into more intentional, more purposeful actions taken, less wasteful actions. Because with that energy of sustenance, it's like if you don't give it anything that it can use as fuel, it's not going to have anything to move, right? You can go get your car serviced and put new wheels and a new engine in your vehicle, but if you never put any gas in it, it's not going to go anywhere. And then the other chakras, it's the solar plexus and the crown. And so there's almost an energy of a purity of thought. Again, going back to that five of essences or five of souls energy, it's like you're being called to more internally, but you're trying to like bargain it away. And it's like the space of the things that you know you should do for yourself. Or you've been knowing that you should do. Oh, snap. Hey, Mimi. Oh, every time, every time I look over, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's probably been like 10 minutes, but it's been like one. Um, oh, snap. The theme for today's read is just it's more of doing what we know that we should be doing. And I'm doing pretty well. How are you? Thank you for asking. And that's that internal conflict. And I don't think it'll be resolved until we begin to do that stuff. Especially like if you're in a space of connecting to yourself or connecting to spirit and manifesting this and manifesting that. It's like there's less that you're going to be able to get away with in a certain type of way. And the candle burning on both ends, I was thinking about this earlier today because it popped back into my mind. That happens. And I remembered, I think it was the hanged man, or yeah, the hanged man in the tarot apocalypsis, or the magician. It was one of them, where it's like we're ascending to the divine and the divine is descending to us. And where we meet is where it's like it's the recreation of the universe. Yesterday was interesting. I slept yesterday. I took a nap yesterday. I wanted to take another nap yesterday. But the thought that came to my mind earlier is like if we're 3D bound, if the upper limit of our consciousness is 3D, then the divine will have to descend all the way down here. And that's the space that's continuously recreated. So we continuously manifest more of what we see. And it's our own ascension and elevation. Like we go from 3 to 4. Now the divine meets us at 4 and we recreate at a 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever. Right. And so again, in that process, we're the limiting thing. I mean, that makes sense because the divine is the divine, spirit is spirit. So, spirit, the divine probably isn't going to be the limiting factor, probably isn't going to be bottlenecking anything. The strong will and the open heart, the creation of that sacred vessel, the understanding and grasping of the unseen and of the subtle. Again, it's like it's really taken us to that place. It's taken us to that level in a more total way. It's almost like it's like your light and your shadow are both important. So if you're not working to elevate your shadow, then for the most part, not for the most part, but you're going to be sort of operating between both of them. You had a severe left-sided headache and couldn't sleep. You was up until 4 a.m. watching a video around 3:20 a.m. Said some players for the Divine Sunshine's family because they experienced some deaths the past month. Wait, what? Oh, said some prayers for Divine Sunshine's family. I had a friend who has been experiencing some loss. He popped into my head one day. I was like, I want to go visit him. So I sent him a message and he was like, hey, I'm at home. I was like, oh. And he was like, yeah, my dad passed. I was like, oh. So he is in India right now. Um, are you feeling better today? I kind of want to pull one more, but I'm pretty sure that's it. And the shadow, like the shadow is our anchor, right? And so if you don't elevate your shadow, if your shadow's still stuck in like 2D or the 3D, then no matter how high you climb, and then what it does is I feel like it makes dark nights a little darker because it creates an energy of like crashing, right? So let's say that you elevate your light to 5D or 6D, but your shadow is still stuck on a 2 or 3. What's going to happen is it's like the divine is constantly meeting you, but you're fluctuating between 5 to 6 and 2 to 3. And so when you're at the 5 or 6 and then you experience a 2 or 3, it creates this even deeper like depression because this is your base or where you would like your base to be. But then it comes all the way down here and you're just like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I think that's why, I think that should be the purpose of, in theory, of shadow work. It's us dealing with those traumas, healing that stuff, facing it, addressing it, not only our own internal traumas, but even some of those of the world, bringing it to the light, allowing for resolution instead of running from it, coping, distracting yourself in whatever manner you do that, and like actually elevating it. Because if you can get like your light to 5 or 6 and then your shadow to like 4 or 5, then it creates a more seamless sort of transition. And again, with that candle burning between both ends, it's about getting them to meet in the middle. And that's what this Libran energy is here. Sometimes I feel Libra energy as an unbiased kind of sort of judge type of energy that wherever you center yourself is where it's going to meet you. That's where it's going to like balance you out. And so if the scale goes from 1 to 10, and you're like, oh, justice is going to put me on the like 7 to 10 side, but you're living a like 3 to 5 life, then that's where justice is kind of sort of going to keep you balanced at. It's more where we are than we think. And there are a lot of ways to get us to elevate ourselves in a lot of ways, both light and shadow. A lot of times we neglect the shadow, and that's why we live such polarized lives. But it's, I mean, I don't know, something about this Pisces season. I don't know if this is just a Pisces season for me because I'm coming into my I'm in my golden year now. And so that's why I'm reading this. But something about this Pisces season is really reading like it's time for us to start doing what we know we should be doing type of energy. 2 minutes after you pray, this long and strong sound emitted from your left ear. Oh, snap. Oh, snap. Well, maybe you should pray more often. Or maybe somebody was tugging on you. I want to get like one card, an oracle card that would fit this. I'm going to get uh, these. I almost said wild unknown. The Threads of Fate Oracle cards. Because I think the Threads of Fate Oracle cards seem to be kind of like worky, like soul worky. And that's the vibe I'm feeling today. So we'll see what card comes out. And then I will end this video and start doing stuff. Like finishing that room. Yeah. Okay. So there's an Empress energy here. There's Libran and Virgo energy here. The solar plexus is here twice. The crown, the sacral, earth, water. Strength is also here. I forgot about strength. And the Seven of Swords, Seven of Air, Seven of Zones. And the thing about zones is like the essences and the souls, water and fire, are more connected in this system. And then air and earth are more connected. But to get anything in earth, you first have to have it in air. Air is like the permit that you need to build anything. And then water and fire lead to the air because, steam. And if you try to earth more than you air, then you get this like mirage type of energy where you may see it, you may think that you're able to interact with it, but it doesn't have any substance. And then the illusion disappears. Okay. I'll take them. This is a lot, though. This is a lot. Several times a day, you feel your prayers are strong enough to help other people. Hey, if that's how you serve, then you just found it. This is 4 cards. Oh, they're all upright. Oh, I'm looking at them. I was like, oh, I ain't see them, so I ain't gonna take them. The Magi, Underworld, Power, and Patience. I kind of like this. The Magi and the Underworld, to me, it speaks of that energy again of, I think we create primarily from our shadow. And I say that we create primarily from our shadow because it's the shadow that limits us in life. You can manifest all kinds of opportunities. You can be a master manifester. But if you get triggered super easily by what it is that you're manifesting, you'll never take it. And so the life you settle for is the one that your shadow will allow, always. But then there's power and patience here. Power and patience, again, it's, to me, it's speaking of that all things taken into account type of energy. It's an energy of like the Knight of Pentacles. It's slow and steady progress, but some progress is better than no progress. And I think sometimes we can sort of get a little bit ahead of ourselves. I think us getting ahead of ourselves sometimes in this way is a little bit of a good thing because it shows us, or a lot of bit of a good thing, because it shows us what we're actually capable of holding or maintaining in life. It's like when spirit sends you like sync after sync after sync of something amazing happening, but it doesn't necessarily happen. Maybe it didn't necessarily happen because we weren't doing what we needed to do to make it happen. Maybe it didn't necessarily happen because it's an energy of a preview, just to show us what is possible outside of our limitations. And again, we have to break through the underworld to like really manifest more in our power and to eliminate that patience. Bottom of the deck is the Weaver. And the Weaver speaks of how we more or less control our own fate. We are the weavers of that thread. I'm actually going to read that one because I like how they say there's the warrior, here's the weaver. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to switch. The print in this book is kind of tiny. Well, I mean, it ain't tiny, tiny, but it's easier with these on. The Weaver is the master of their destiny. This deck is named the Threads of Fate because each one of us has thousands of threads that, when combined, weave the fabric of our life. We can braid, nurture, or sever any strand at any time, and in doing so, we are the Weaver. This card urges you to take inventory of all the threads active within your life at the moment. What needs to happen moving forward? Which ones need to grow stronger? Which ones need to be cut? What actions can you take to tend the threads of your fate? And again, like that's that energy of when we really resolve and heal our own shadow, there are things that we're just incapable of receiving because it triggers us too much when we get too close to it. And then, we run back to the shadows. And that's why it's like, if you're not, but like, that's the point of shadow work. It's healing and elevating your shadow. It seems like a lot of shadow work tends to be like, I don't know, rebranding the same shadow, or just, it's honestly coping. Not coping, it's bypassing. And that bypassing energy goes back to the explorer in reverse, or the unbalanced explorer energy that came out as the current energy under this full moon Virgo to full moon Libra cycle. Yeah, because Aries is next. So that's where I'm gonna end this today. I guess I feel like it's gonna be pretty much this flavor all season long. Something about this Pisces season. I think the nodes shift into Taurus and Scorpio in January. So we have like this year to really anchor ourselves into a new energy. And what's interesting about that is this year still carries some energy last year. So things aren't necessarily going to change too much on their own accord externally. And does it feel like it's a bit unfair to try to ask for so much in a time when there's almost like so little to go off of, or when there's so much being demanded? It's like, maybe. But if not now, then when? And if you can do it now, then you can do it whenever. It's like, if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. And then life starts throwing wrenches at you. Eventually, hopefully, well, not you'll start to dodge. You'll learn how to dodge a wrench, and then dodge ball will be a piece of cake, right? And I think that's something that we also don't necessarily take into account. And like, again, this like Seven of Swords into the Wheel of Fortune Virgo energy, especially with the element of earth down there, we're always setting a foundation for ourselves. Always. When we're in a time of difficulty, we're setting a foundation. When we're in the time of bliss, we're setting a foundation. We're setting an anchor point. And if your whole thing is like, oh, I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, or I started like smoking and drinking and clubbing, or well, who clubbing right now? People are clubbing right now. Yeah. Um, or like I started shopping again, or doing this or doing that because life was hard, life was challenging. It was like, well, life is always going to have challenges, and it's time to come off of the crutches. Like, you don't have to come off of the crutches, but realize that like that's what you're telling yourself. When anything difficult happens, when life gets difficult, I'm running to the bottle, I'm running to Amazon, I'm running to it's like prohibition. It's like we're living the prohibition era where people are told, you ain't supposed to be gathering in large numbers, but you see people clubbing, partying, all kinds of things. And then in the same breath, people will be like, why isn't this ending? Oh my gosh, why are we still here? And it's like, what do you mean? Like, look at what you're doing. Hello? If you don't do anything, nothing changes. And that it's the same. It's an energy that's kind of sort of running through everything right now. If you don't do anything, nothing changes. And if your first response when something happens that asks more of you is to do even less than what you were doing before, like that's what you're establishing for yourself. And again, it's understandable that when things get difficult and you need an escape from reality, that you take that escape. But again, what you're reinforcing is a pattern of escape. How do you plan on getting anywhere if when things get difficult, you don't have it within you to like push through it? I don't know. Sleeping a lot. Your son even asked why you always tired and sleeping now besides staying up late. You do think it was an escape mechanism to something. I mean, I was sleeping because I was tired and it took me a while to do what I needed to do. Of course I waited until the last minute to do it, but I'm not doing that anymore. That's what the golden year is about. That old procrastination demon is be putting it in the closet. Oh, well, we ain't putting it in the closet because if I put it in the closet, it'll just come back out later. We're having a discussion right now. We are renegotiating the procrastination contract. Procrastination will be for the weekends or whenever. You need to talk to your inner child about these aimless late nights. Yeah, and it's like again, we're living in a time where it's very true when people say like just surviving is more than enough. But if you want to have a life where you do more than just survive, then it's not. And there are lots of things that we can't control, and it's not for us to try to control any of them. But it's the Chinese year of the ox. And I'm feeling year of the ox as you do the stuff that you need to do because the ox ain't going to do everything. The ox can carry this and it can carry that, and you can yoke them up and do whatever. But the ox, like, they're not going to plant the seeds, they're not going to water them. Like, there are things that they can do and things that they can't do. Don't worry about the things that you can't do, but start doing something somewhere. And it's like a lot of people feel like they don't really have any control or agency in their own lives. But the things that they do have control over, it's like they focus more on the things that they can't control to the point that they don't do anything. And then it's like, well, I have no this in my life and I have no that in my life. And I'm like, well, where are you going to start to establish it? It doesn't just happen. So, what is it? Because I've said everything. So I'm about to head out. Hit me with it. Hit me with it. Who was that? Oh, snap. Oh, snap. Oh. The Bible say, ask and you shall receive. So I asked, even though I didn't want to. I was kind of uncomfortable. Here we go. Oh, ooh, oh, snap. Oh, snap. Here we go. I'm sorry. Your reaction is so. I think I got it. Oh, snap. Taurus new ruling planet being Earth. Think about it. Speaking of Taurus, I was in my little line a day journal, and I'll show y'all this page because I barely wrote anything. Oh, I didn't write it. I'm in my line a day journal, and I wrote 21. And like, here's a piece of paper. I was writing 21, and it looked like this. It looked like that, and I'm like, hold up, like that's almost Jupiter, ain't it? Because isn't that the glyph for Jupiter? 2021 is the year of Jupiter. It's a Jupiterian year. I don't think that's the new ruling planet. Because I just like the reason why I say that is like I've heard that Taurus is Earth for a minute. Um, yeah, when you were saying that like Uranus was squaring two things, I remember that, and that's one of the things that makes the zodiac feel incomplete. One of the things that makes the zodiac feel incomplete, and then it makes the tarot feel like there's something missing, is because Earth isn't accounted for in anything that we do, which is weird. I guess like we take the space of Earth, and so everything is sort of outside of us. But within the zodiac energy, like shouldn't Earth be represented somewhere? And the other thing is like the sun is the only luminary in our solar system, so there should be two zodiac signs for the moon, one that faces the sun and the other that faces away from the sun. Traditionally, like we thought it was a luminary, sure, but and then we have Ophiuchus, and I'm like, okay, so Ophiuchus would be ruled by the moon because you know there's a dark side of the moon and we don't have a sign for it. Um, they're like a little just like tiny, not necessarily inconsistencies, but it's some things that like if we extrapolate the system to what we now know, it's like there should be more. Maybe people knew it back in the day and there was a manipulation of information and we lost it. Is it feasible? Yeah. I mean, they burned the Library of Alexandria, so who knows? Everything that was in the Library of Alexandria, not everything, but some of the things that would have had like maybe copies in the Library of Alexandria is locked under the Vatican. So the Vatican is sitting on all kinds of information that we don't even know. And if I was watching a movie, I would say that they are the villains holding some kind of secret information and they've manipulated the history and the minds of people on Earth because I've seen TV shows and video games where that's happened. People will take information, hide it, and then basically rewrite history to the point where people at whatever time don't even remember their own history. But anyway, I don't know what that planet is. Virgo's ruling planet. Mm, Virgo, I would say it's Mercury. I would say it's still Mercury because to me Virgo has like a Saturnian energy, but it's not like fully Saturnian. But it also has like a Jupiterian energy, but it's not fully Jupiterian. And then I can see Mercury as like being having qualities of both like Saturn and like Jupiter, where it can be like kind of sort of Jupiterian and it's like not chaotic ways, but like if you think Gemini, it'd be like more heavily um Jupiter, but Virgo I think emphasizes more of that Saturnian energy. It's more of the like the what do you call it? Like the bookkeeper side of Mercury. Because if Mercury is doing everything that Mercury does, Mercury has to have a system. It has to. Virgo is the system. Jupiter is like what you see, or Gemini is what you see outside. Virgo would be everything that Mercury is behind closed doors to make it as efficient as it is and running around between all the gods. Um, I don't know what I would attribute to Chiron, but Maldek is interesting. A planet that was destroyed. I mean, honestly, I could see that. I can see us having another planet or two in the solar system because of the asteroid belt um, between I forget where it is, the Kuiper Belt or however you pronounce it. Because it's like that's a lot of asteroids. That's a lot of chunks of rock just floating out there. Um, so I could see it. And it also feels like there's something in a space, maybe somewhere beyond space that is I don't know if it's like coming back or whatever. Cause one of my buddies was talking about how the full moon in Virgo, like the moon, how the moon was separated from everything else. And he was like, "Well, what do you think?" And I was like, I was thinking about it, and I was like, it feels kind of quiet. It feels like maybe there's some like far off element um that is kind of sort of like, I almost said like I wouldn't be surprised if we discovered a new planet in our solar system. But that sounds a little like out there. So I didn't say that. But when I was thinking about it, it was like it feels like there's another energetic influence that we currently don't have. It's not currently incorporated into the systems that a lot of us use or that are more commonly used. And the fact that like the moon is now in this space that's separated from everything else, and the moon is our connection, our holds, it's like our doorway to everything outside of us or inside of us, means that now it's like it can whisper in the ear of the moon. Um, but then I remember trans Neptunian, I remember Uranian astrology and how they have those trans Neptunian points. It's like these points in the chart that correspond to energies when you follow them, but we don't currently like know what's in those positions. But there's an energy in that place. Could it be the echo of a destroyed planet? Could it be a planet like somewhere or a star somewhere outside of our viewpoint or in a space that we're not really looking? Could it be one of those interdimensional foldy types of things that has like a little pocket universe somewhere with a pocket planet or something? I don't know. Especially with like dark matter becoming more and more and more of a thing. There could be like a whole dark matter, we could have several dark matter sort of planets or like massive um, aggregations of dark matter with dark matter people on them. I'm like, I don't know. It could be anything, but like energies kind of sort of bounce between universes and worlds. Um, so you know, I don't know. I'm not really surprised by it though. But yeah, because I remember thinking, I was like, well, what would like the sign for Earth be? And then, and I guess Venus is also, well, Venus is exalted in Pisces, but it's domicile in Taurus, but it also rules Libra. But they say that like Earth and Venus are like basically twin sister planets. Not twin sisters, but they're like sister planets. So like Taurus ruling Earth. I've heard that a minute ago. But yeah. Oh snap. What would what be? Yeah, I don't. It's some. I'm just like, you know what? I'm ready for us to. I don't know. I think a lot of times it's like people. I don't know. It's like we talk about being controlled by the government and being controlled by other things, and how like we don't like it. But part of me is like, well, are we even ready for that? First of all. And then there's another part of me that's like, well, I'm excited to see like what there is outside of everything that there is. What's under the Vatican? That's what I want to know. Let me stop. Um, but yeah, there's another part that's like, we can barely manage the things that like we're managing now. So that's why I'm like, are we ready to like not be, or are we ready to like actually be free when we can't even like really too much free ourselves of our own biases and limited thinking and stuff like that? It's like, well, man, like we can't even take care of what we got and we asking for more without trying to kill each other. I'm like, okay, well, but I also believe that we'll get to that point. And I think, I don't know, things have already diverted enough. We'll see. Live life and find out. Until then, I'm gonna worry about moving my life forward and getting to the places and spaces that I need to be to get what I want. Um, because I'm important to me. So Then it's like a half and half, but more so no. No problem. No problem. I live to serve, I guess. One of my purposes for living is serving. So if I can do that, then I'm happy fulfilling that function of several functions. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna catch you later. I hope y'all have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope something in here helps you in some way, shape, form, or fashion to become the you that you can be outside of the you that have been forced to be, outside of the you that you limit yourself to being, outside of the you that your traumas and your experiences in the past and your projection of what you see as your limit or your heights, outside of all of it, because we are infinitely more. And the more you come into yourself, the more of that infinitely more you're going to feel. And it doesn't necessarily produce an energy of dissatisfaction, but it's like the closer you get to it, the more you will be able to feel how you fall short of it in some way. And that comes with the pressure and attention all on its own. And depending on the journeys, you can't necessarily escape it, unfortunately. And you can't necessarily turn back either, because once you can't forget it. You can try, but that's a lot of coping. And I was blessed to not have a lot of money for good reason. I can't afford an alcohol addiction or a shopping addiction or even a video game addiction anymore, because video games cost money. I'm gonna finish watching the Ten Commandments. Well, what was on that third tablet? What happened to Commandments 11 through 15? When Moses came down off the mountain and he saw them heathens, and he was like, you know what, y'all don't even deserve these last five. Boom, crack, split. Maybe that was what would have really taken us there, was in those last five. Like, if you follow these 10 commandments and five blessings straight from the Lord. But we can't even master the 10 we got. So hey, let me stop. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me calm down. Let me chill. Let me chill. We're chill. And we're chill. Okay. With that, I'm going to go. I'll catch you later. Enjoy.